I now have the honor to give the floor to His Excellency Sadık Arslan, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Turkey to the Office of the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, to present additional information on the review. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, honorable delegates, distinguished participants. It's an honor for me to address this meeting on the consideration of the Universal Periodic Review outcome of Turkey. At the outset, allow me to reiterate Turkey's strong commitment to the Universal Periodic Review as a unique and comprehensive peer review mechanism. Turkey believes that if conducted in a constructive spirit and non-politicized manner, this mechanism can be a great tool for enhancing human rights standards globally. It also draws us closer to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. As you know, Turkey's third cycle of UPR was conducted in January 2020. As a token of its active engagement in the UPR process, Turkey was represented by a large delegation comprising officials from various public institutions and headed by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Faruk Kaymakçı. During the review, Turkey received 321 recommendations. 19 of these recommendations were rejected by Turkey at the adoption of its UPR Working Group report in January 30th. Because these resolutions were politically motivated and not in line with the principle of non-confrontational conduct of the UPR. We made our position on these recommendations very clear in the report of the working group. The remaining 302 recommendations were carefully examined by all relevant government institutions as well as the national human rights agencies. I am pleased to announce that 216 of these recommendations, which is around 72%, enjoy the support of Turkey. In fact, some of the supported recommendations are already implemented or in the process of implementation. The remaining 86 of these recommendations were noted for different reasons. Certain recommendations address multiple issues and Turkey could not support the whole recommendation. In some cases, issues subject to the recommendations are not currently on Turkey's reform agenda and therefore additional measures are not planned for the time being. On the other hand, some recommendations contained inaccurate information, assumptions and allegations regarding Turkish law or practice, and that's why they were not accepted. Turkey's position on all recommendations are provided in the addendum to the report of the working group on UPR dated June 24, 2020. Turkey's high support rate of the recommendations demonstrates its commitment to the UPR process as well as our strong will to enhance all aspects of human rights. Madam Vice President, honorable delegates, unfortunately, shortly after Turkey's UPR review, so much has changed in our lives all over the world. Proven to be an exceptional and unprecedented challenge for every country around the world, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a global health and economic crisis, threatening to reverse progress in multilateral efforts in key human rights issues. However, the pandemic has also taught us valuable lessons that strong international cooperation and multilateralism are key in achieving our overarching goals of peace and human rights, and that finding solutions to crises require our joint efforts. Turkey has taken a human rights-based approach in its measures aimed at curbing the spread of the virus. Particularly, we have considered the special challenges faced by vulnerable segments of society, such as women, children, elderly, persons with disabilities, migrants and refugees. All school-aged, all our citizens, whether they have social security coverage or not, receive the necessary treatment for COVID-19 free of charge. All school-age children continue to receive quality distance education during the period through the centralized education information network created for this purpose. Total sum of social aid payments has been increased during the pandemic. As pointed out by the UN Secretary General, there is a heightened risk of domestic violence globally. Accordingly, Turkey has taken the necessary steps. Services provided to victims of violence continue uninterrupted during this period. In addition to existing mechanism, 46 additional facilities are used for housing victims of violence during the COVID-19 crisis. Madam Vice President and distinguished participants, in order to curb the spread of the virus among persons deprived of their liberty, Turkey has introduced various legislative amendments. In accordance with the law number 7242, which entered into force in April, approximately 95,000 prisoners have been released. Health measures within all penitentiary institutions have been strengthened. Furthermore, Turkey kept on extending its generous hand to more than 4 million refugees in its territory even during this difficult period. Despite the pushbacks of tens of thousands of migrants by some countries, Turkey continued to uphold its international obligations as well as the human rights and dignity of the people that we are hosting. All temporary accommodation camps are disinfected regularly and social distancing measures are strictly followed. The Communication Center for Foreigners provides translation services to the Ministry of Health while responding to COVID-19 related questions of refugees. Turkey also works closely with international organizations like the UNHCR and the IOM in order to reduce the financial impact of the pandemic on refugees. Madam Vice President, distinguished participants, promotion and protection of human rights and the advancements of Turkish democracy to a higher level continues to be a top priority on Turkey's agenda. In the past 5 years, our nation has faced unprecedented security challenges. We lost around 1,600 Turkish citizens in several terror attacks during this period. We continue with our reforms even in the face of grave security threats by multiple terrorist organizations, including Daesh, PKK, PYD, YPG, and the Fethullahist terrorist organization, which attempted a coup against the Turkish democracy on the 15th of July 2016. This heinous terrorist coup attempt targeted to overthrow the elected government together with the president and the constitutional order in Turkey, leaving behind 251 innocent citizens killed and 2,391 wounded overnight. Our fight against terrorism protects the most fundamental rights of our citizens as well as millions in our region. Turkey was also faced with the largest influx of refugees in the world and is home to around 4 million refugees. As opposed to certain countries where hostility against refugees, xenophobia, hate speech and Islamophobia were on the rise, Turkey has upheld its international obligations. As we stated in detail during our UPR session in January 2020, we made progress in our reform agenda since the termination of the state of emergency 2 years ago. The judicial reform strategy and the pursuant legislative reforms were introduced before our UPR session. The Turkish government maintains its strong political will to pursue its reform agenda with a view to expanding the scope of fundamental freedoms for all. I am pleased to announce that 2 more legislative amendment packages have been adopted since then. These reform packages are mainly aimed at strengthening fundamental rights and freedoms, in particular freedom of expressions and victims' rights. They also introduce limitations to the length of pretrial detention while bringing several improvements concerning the promotion of judges and prosecutors. Such measures are aimed at furthering the independence and impartiality of the judiciary. These amendments are the best manifestation of Turkey's resolve for further progress in the field of human rights. Our resolve will continue unabated, and the UPR mechanisms supported by Turkey will certainly prove to be helpful both in shaping its future reforms and in drawing Turkey closer to the sustainable development goals. Thank you, Madam Vice President.